All right, guys. I debated for a long time actually whether or not I was even going to post about this situation. Over the last few years, I have tried to be as transparent and genuine with my experience buying and selling shoes and other things, really trying to show you guys how I make money on the side and how you guys can do the same thing. Consignment was, another aspect to my business that I had expanded to and I had never been a part of before. And I started filming that from start to finish. And I did film, the end of my relationship with a store that consigns. And I decided that, it might just not be best to post that actual content. My strategy at first was, to bring the camera along and show you guys, the process of taking pairs out of consignment. There were a lot of pairs that were going to be moving. There were some cash outs that were going down. And when money's moving and pairs are moving, I'm always filming. It makes for good content. In this case, I just don't see how the actual content would benefit me, you guys, or the store owner for that matter. I feel like it's better to just explain the experience from start to finish and what the benefits were, what the drawbacks were, and things that you guys should be, aware of to protect yourselves whenever you do get into consignment. Because at the end of the day, consignment really can be beneficial to both parties, whether that be, the store owner or the person who has the shoes. Everybody can make money. Typically you can make more money, but it's hard to do business with somebody whenever you're basing most of that relationship off of a handshake, which is kind of how I started things. Whenever I got into consigning with this store, there was a contract that had some basic guidelines, which helped me in the end of this. But most of it was just building a relationship with a new person and having same interests and hoping that things went well. The first drop off that I made to this store, I only dropped off, I don't know, maybe like 20 pairs. I have it all tracked, which is something else that I would strongly recommend you guys do. If you ever are taking pairs in and out of your inventory, you should definitely track your inventory. Take a spreadsheet, know what pairs you're taking where, know what you have on hand at all times, not just the market value of the shoes that you have, but make sure you're keeping track of your inventory. So after my first drop off, I was making decent money. I was actually fetching higher prices for the shoes than what I thought that I would originally, and I was super happy about that. Whenever I was introduced to the deal, the store was getting 10%, which was great. I had heard of a lot of places that were consigning at much higher rates, so to me this was pretty enticing. It wasn't long after that I was made aware that the commission was going to raise, that consignment rate was going to raise to like 12 and a fraction. But I was also told that whenever that consignment rate was raising, that it was to justify getting new tech, like a POS or something that would have the ability to show consigners what they had sold and track their pairs and their inventory a little bit better. That way it wouldn't be like texts back and forth showing what sold and when and how much money you made. So the commission ended up raising, but we never got that. We didn't have the capability of tracking our inventory. Nothing changed from that aspect, which was kind of disappointing, but I kind of just sucked it up because the rates were still really good and we were still fetching high prices. I think the first thing that kind of yanked me whenever I was consigning at this store, in that first drop that I made, I had brought like 10 to 12 pairs of Yeezy 350 V2 bones, and they were at their mature state. We had several restocks in the past of those, but they were at a point where they were reselling for mid 300s. To be quite honest with you, I believe all of my pairs in the store were priced at like $359.99. And I sold a few pairs, and shortly after that, Adidas announced another restock, of course, the Bone V2s, and the resale plummeted on them. Now, I had been in the practice of buying and holding before I sold, so I was selling in waves, and it didn't hurt me to hold these shoes. So I told the store owner to pull those back. Let's not sell those right now. I'll come and get them if anything. I don't want to sell those for the price that they're going at, which at the time was about retail again. So they went from like 350, 360 all the way back down to retail, just from restock rumors, just from a restock that did actually happen. Wasn't willing to sell them for that. I'd already held them for so long. I knew that an all white pair of Yeezy 350s had value and that they would rise in the future. So I went to the store to make another drop off, and I was going to pick up the size 7s, and they just happened to be gone. It kind of raised a red flag for me because I had never been told that those had sold. I didn't get paid for them. They were just gone, and somehow they sold that same week that I decided to show up to the store. it made me feel like the pairs that I had sold were being hidden from me and I was being paid out at the owner's convenience. Not to mention, I also found out that those sold for like $240. And there actually happened to be like 3 to 4 pairs of those that sold at that rate. So I was ticked, nonetheless. I mean, I was practically losing money on those pairs after taxes and fees and everything. A pair of 350s, you got like $245 in them, and I was getting paid out like $240. And I told the store owner, how upset I was about it. In the contract, it says that you have to agree to price changes before they're made, and these pairs were kind of sold behind my back, and I wasn't even paid for some of them up front. So that kind of raised another concern. I started to think about it, and I was like, from the business owner standpoint, I kind of understand why this could be going the way that it is. And let me explain. So if I'm a store owner and I'm taking pairs on consignment, I've got all these different consigners, and my deal with them is to pay them out at the first of every week. Well, let's say this consignor A sells 2 pairs of shoes this week. Well, maybe I only pay him out for 1 this week, and I use the money for the other pair as a loan to myself to buy my own inventory and grow my own inventory within the store. And then I'll pay him back in a couple weeks later, because he doesn't know when these shoes sold. He's not coming and checking on things regularly. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but it kind of feels like that's what happened. There would be times where I had brought new pairs of shoes, whether there be a new release, like whenever the military blue 4s and the bread 4s came out, I was able to get my hands on early pairs, from the shock drops. And I made sure that I took my pairs in there first. I was the first one to have these pairs of shoes on their shelves. How would those not sell before release date? I mean, there were a couple times where it took a while for pairs of shoes to sell, and I was getting paid out later than what I thought I should. And it just kind of solidified that idea in my head that, the store owner is probably using his consignor's sales as a loan to grow his own inventory and just paying us whenever he's able to. Can I prove that? No, absolutely not. I'm not the one who runs his point of sale system. I can't see what has gone in and out of inventory, and I don't even know how he tracked who sold what. To me, it should have been like a first in, first out. If I was the one who had my pairs in a location first, mine should be sold first. That's how I looked at it. And who knows if that's even how things went down. Over the course of this time, I didn't really have any issues with the payouts besides the bones. The prices were all fair. I was making good money. I brought a couple more loads of shoes to the store. And then out of nowhere, like within the last month, all the consigners got an email that said consignment at the store is over, and that you can either sell your shoes to the store, you can come and get them, or you can keep existing pairs on consignment for 18% fee. And that's only the pairs that you already have in the store. You can't bring in new ones for that 18% fee. It's already, what you have in the store. Now, mind you, this was like less than a week of a heads up. This email was sent at the end of a month, and this was supposed to be active the first of the month. Giving your consigners less than a week's notice to do something with the pairs that they put on your shelves to keep you in business doesn't sound very professional to me. Now, the day that I got this email, I texted the store owner and let him know that we would work something out for some of the pairs and that I'd come get the rest. And I didn't get a response back. The following week, whenever I was supposed to come and get my shoes, I finally got a response back. I had already sent a list. We had contact back and forth about, cash out values. And there was like 8 pairs or something that I figured that we could make a deal on. The rest of them I was going to come and get. So we loaded up the vehicles and we headed to the store. I mean, I had like 40 to 50 pairs that I still needed to take off the shelves, which might not seem like a lot, but that's a good chunk of inventory for this store. And honestly, all of the consignment had to have been a good percentage of this store's inventory. And what everyone else did, I don't know. I don't care. The store owner may have had different relationships with other people, and that's all fine. Whenever I got in the vehicle and headed towards the store, I was informed that the store owner wouldn't be there. This is after already confirming that I was going there on that specific day to pick up shoes and to do this cash out. And I already had in the back of my head that based on the list that we sent back and forth for what I had in inventory at the time, I was like 99% certain that I was missing pairs of shoes. And again, I referred back to the contract that I signed whenever I went into business with this store. And that stated that if shoes were lost or stolen, insurance would step in if need be, and the full amount of the pair of shoes would be paid out to the consignor without fees. Now, that wording is kind of bad from a contract standpoint. Without fees could mean the payout is coming without the fees, like minus the fees, or the payout is coming without any fees affiliated with it, as in you're getting paid the full amount. That's the way I took it. I had been communicated that specific wording from the store owner previously. And to me, I knew the shoes weren't just going to turn up magically. So I was going there with a good attitude, trying to be diligent from my point of view. You know, I just got an email within the last 4 to 5 days. I'm getting there. I'm getting my pairs. I'm doing what the store owner asks. Yet they aren't showing up for this, and I'm missing shoes. When I got to the store, I didn't have a lot of issues with any of the shoes that I had. I may have been missing like a hang tag or something for some of the pairs, and I ended up smoothing out all of that, which again, who knows if I even got back the exact same pairs that I dropped off, which is also concerning. I feel like in a large store, I could understand if some of the shoes got mixed together, but from an organizational standpoint, you would think that all of the consigners' shoes would have been kept separate. So I ended up cashing out like 8 pairs of shoes for, I countered at $1,100. The owner wouldn't meet me at $1,100. We ended up settling at $1,050, I believe. But I was missing pairs of shoes. Now, if you're missing $200 to $300 pairs of shoes, that can ruin your profit for like 20 to 30 pairs of shoes. Especially if your margins are small, you know, like $30 to $40 per pair. That's a big deal. We sat in that store for probably an hour and a half trying to come up with some solution to this, and it got to the point where I don't feel like we were like stiff arming, but it was the fact that I showed up whenever I was told to, and I was trying to take care of my end of the business, and I didn't feel like that was being reciprocated, and I wanted everything to be done in that one trip. I didn't want to come back to the store. I didn't want to be given some runaround on what was going on with my pairs of shoes. I wanted to do business as per the contract, pick up my pairs of shoes, do the cash out, and be made right for the pairs that were missing. I was missing a youth pair of lost and found ones, 2 pairs of 350 V2 Onyx, and a pair of Bones size 10.5. Now during this like hour and a half that we're sitting there waiting, one of my pairs like magically appeared. Whether they took that from another consignor or their personal inventory, I don't know. So I got one pair of the Onyx 350s back. The other pair came out in a different size, and I was told that those were size swapped. That just doesn't seem like great business to me to not cut me in on that or ask me about it. Really, the reasoning that they gave me was, well, right now the value of this pair of shoes is actually higher than the pair that you brought in. What about my risk? What if the pair of shoes that you're giving me that somebody else brought in to size swap has like a factory flaw? Or what if they're not even real? What if they slip through the cracks and it's a fake pair of shoes and you're giving me back a pair of fakes? What if I bought that size on purpose because that's my personal size, and if they don't sell, I'd rather put them in my personal collection rather than sell them? Also, I feel like it's pretty traditional at stores for a size swap to cost money, like 20 bucks even. So if these were size swapped and the store made money on my pair of shoes size swapping, where's my cut? None of these questions were answered. Like I said, the only thing that I was told is, well, the pair of shoes that we gave you has a higher market value. And it was like by 10, 20 bucks. So that didn't really sit right with me either, but it wasn't even worth the argument. Then remember I told you that these pairs of Bones were originally priced at $359.99, and I did not want to sell them for retail, which is pretty much what they were selling them for. Come to find out, that pair of Bones sold almost an entire year ago, and I was just never paid for them, which again kind of solidifies my theory about them not paying on purpose and using that as a loan to up their inventory. It's like, wow, that's cool. Well, I wonder what they sold for. Still not the full amount, which isn't right. They should have honored the price that they were originally supposed to sell for and pay me out that amount. So I was told that I was going to get sent the money for the other 2 pairs of shoes, and it was less than what they were priced at. I asked the owner about it, and they pretty much said, like, where are you getting this information from? And I said, the contract. There wasn't much communication after that. It was pretty much, okay. Sent the money, still really wasn't right. Should have been about $50 more. But at the end of the day, I got paid out, everything was settled, and that's how we tied the loose ends. I'm not 100% happy with how that relationship was towards the end of things. I don't feel like it would have been beneficial for me to leave my pairs at the store at that 18% rate. Again, I can't prove anything, but to me, whenever a store comes out and makes an announcement like this, I'm kind of wondering how they're going to stay afloat on their own. I know that, you know, just me and a partner that I have had probably like 100 pairs of shoes in this store at one point in time. I could have had a lot more in there. I was just kind of feeling out the situation. I'm glad I didn't put all of my eggs in one basket with the store. I didn't think it was a smart move to leave my shoes there either, especially after already having suspicion about having pairs missing and not knowing what the future of the store was. It just seemed like a good time to get out whenever I got that email. I'm happy that I got everything back for the most part, that things were settled. Money-wise, I feel like I was only done wrong with the pricing of the bones. And then whenever we went to settle on those pairs, I feel like the amount that was paid out to me maybe wasn't what it was supposed to be. Just really wasn't worth any more arguing or stiff-arming one another or causing any harm to a relationship that had been good for the most part throughout the entire process. Thankful for the experience. Would I consign again? Absolutely. I would make sure that there's a lot in writing, because at the end of the day, you know, things do happen. Everybody's not perfect, and I'm not expecting anybody to be perfect. This was a smaller store that was ran by one person for the most part, and I get that things can be difficult to keep in order. So I'm not pointing any fingers, blaming anybody for anything, calling anybody shady or anything like that. Just sharing my experience and my theories about the whole experience. Hopefully you guys can take something from this, learn from my mistakes or the things that I did right, and just keep in mind that consignment can be great, but it can also lead to problems and concerns like these. If you guys have any questions about consignment or, you know, even this specific deal, feel free to drop those in the comments below, or you can hit me up on IG. The handle is the same, at AllABSneakers. I'm an open book. I just didn't feel like this was the right time or place to post the actual content from this whole ordeal. So I hope you guys understand. Yes, it might have been a cool video to post the actual content and the real life negotiation back and forth. I don't want it to come off as like slanderous by any means. I'm just here to share my experiences as a sneakerhead, as a reseller, and try and help you guys out. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Next week, I'm going to have a release guide for the month of July. So make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on so that you don't miss that release guide. I will talk about everything that I think is going to be profitable for the month of July. So thank you guys for watching. Do not forget, this is all about sneakers.